Have you ever watched a piece of media that radicalized you against life itself? Well, I have. So, to anyone who wanted me to watch Cats, you will start coughing in 7 days because what the. And to cope with all the trauma of watching Cats, I wrote a bunch of jokes. So, let's get right into it. Despite its formidable cast, this Cats adaptation is a clawful mistake that will leave most viewers begging to be put out of their misery. That is the best way to summarize what must have been the most expensive animal abuse campaign ever created. For those of you who don't know, 2 weeks ago I reviewed Dear Evan Hansen and I made the terrible mistake of saying that I had never watched Cats, and some of you said that you wanted me to watch it and review it. And to those people, all I have to say is, who hurt you? What went wrong, and when did you decide to hurt others? Cats 2019, the big screen adaptation of the musical of the same name, one of the longest ever running musicals ever, and I'd like to ask why. There's a 90s stage recording of this production that some of you said is really worth it, and to that I say good for them, but there's no chance in hell I'm watching this shit again. No. I went back and forth about how to present my thoughts on this endless pool of trash, because normally I give my general opinions on the movie, and then I do a quick recap / summary of the story so you guys can get an idea of the plot, adding some commentary along the way. I can't do that here, because though I searched, there is no plot to be found. I tried playing devil's advocate and thought surely this story is an allegory to something greater. You know, each cat represents an archetype of a person in society, a critique, if you will. And sure, for example, James Corden's cat is a furry representation of greed? Question mark? But how do you suppose I interpret Rebel Wilson's cat training mice and cockroaches just so she can eat them mid-performance? I would call this movie the Morbius or the Madame Web of musicals, but that would be a disservice to bad movies that are actually enjoyable for how bad they are. And I promise you, this is not a biased review tainted by the many previous reviewers that slammed this as one of the worst things ever made for the big screen. But I would rather turn the incoherent ramblings of Donald Trump and Elon Musk trying to out-stupid each other into a lullaby song and fall asleep to that screeching noise for an entire week straight than watch this shit again. I would rather sit in a park by myself watching grass grow as I slow eat worms off the ground as the sun blisters my skin all day than watch this shit again. If anything, Cats is the Gal Gadot of movies.
Kalel, no!
Someone predicted in their review that this movie would probably only appeal to the furry fandom, but even the furries of the world, already living in the fringes of society with truly nothing to lose, said that the effects of this film were disturbing. Do you understand how messed up you have to be for the furries to disavow you and call you disturbing? No hate against furries, you do you. If you want to hop around the park like a puppy, more power to you. After all, we're all in this fight together. There are several thoughts that popped into mind before we get into whatever the plot of this non-plotted film was, as follows. Tom Hopper directed this. You may know him from other films such as The King's Speech, an incredible representation of a stuttering king, or the other musical, the other long-running musical, Les Miserables, which I've also never seen because you could not pay me enough. No. But I think him winning the Razzie Award for Worst Director for Cats was actually the universe's revenge for the Danish Girls casting Eddie Redmayne as its central trans character. Also, I couldn't stop wondering what it must have felt like to have paid a cinema ticket to watch this film. For context, I tried watching this several times throughout the years. And I don't know, within the first minutes, every single time, I would always turn it off because cutting my toenails would seem more exciting. Cleaning my house felt more exhilarating. Marrying a woman and living the rest of my days with a beard that isn't on my face sounded more appealing and interesting. So to think that people actually paid to go to the cinema and then they went to the cinema and they started watching this, I just want to know how it felt. Was it good? Did anybody sue Universal for making this film and marketing it as an event? Also, the movie cost $95 million to make, and I saw some people online saying that you may call this a cinematic flop, but I call it a money laundering success. And I don't know anything about laundering money, but I have to agree, because it really is the only thing that makes this make any type of sense. The movie has Jason Derulo in it, who had to do a Cockney accent for it, and honestly, that part wasn't bad at all. He was a bit annoyed that apparently they CGI'd his bulge out of the final cut, and I just think it's funny that for so many things to be mad at, that's what he chose as the main source of his disappointment. Removing his manhood off our screens.
CGI'd the dick out.
Yes.
Yeah, they did CGI. I noticed that.
Did they?
Yeah,
You think that they airbrushed your penis out of the cats?
125%.
Also, he doesn't say his name a single time in the entire film, and I think that's a missed opportunity. And I hear you say, well, of course he doesn't. He's playing a character that isn't Jason Derulo. Why would he say his name? Which makes no sense, because that would be applying logic to this film, and I think that we're way beyond the point of logic in this film. I don't think that's fair. Like, what has logic ever done to you? Look me in the eye and tell me Cats wouldn't have made for a better watch if Jason Derulo's character shouted at least once, "Jason Derulo!" throughout the runtime. That's right. You can't. There are some positives, though. Yeah, I said positives. This is the first movie ever starring James Corden where the presence of James Corden isn't the worst thing about it. Though it still irks me that he played another gay character, in a very stereotypically unfunny way. Though some of you could argue that he was just being himself, and to that I say, fair point. But the best part about the movie is that it ends, because by the end, it felt like I had been watching this for literal years, which makes sense considering it was years from the first time I tried watching it to the only time I finished it. At least I think I finished it. I may have blacked out through most of it, like a fever dream. Maybe that's why I can't talk about a plot, because I was secretly just dreaming of jumping off a cliff instead. That would have been better. So, Cats follows Victoria, a white cat who, after being abandoned by her owners, becomes embroiled with jellicle cats as they perform throughout the night in hopes of being chosen for the honor of reincarnation to live a better life. So much to unpack here. Jellicle doesn't mean anything. It's literally a made-up word. A made-up word that they say so many times and refers to a tribe of cats who gather annually for the Jellicle Ball. That's right. In Cats' universe, this happens once a year. And if you consider that cats live 9 lives, these poor bastards are literally stuck in purgatory. Maybe that should have been the name of the musical. Purgatory. Get it? So the movie's basically just that. A bunch of cats introducing themselves, performing their little musical numbers, and us being forced to watch it unfold. But why is it so painful? After all, musicals are just characters performing their little solo songs, right? Well, usually there's a plot, but then there's the execution. Someone out there thought it would be a good idea to make this a live-action, animalistically faithful adaptation of actual cats singing and dancing, but with humans. I don't even know if that makes sense. I feel like I'm just saying words at this point. They relied on CGI instead of costuming to make them look like actual cats. And that decision has prompted some questions that I would very much like answered. First, and probably most importantly, why? Why not make this an animated feature or simply a reimagining of the stage production where actors are dressed in cat costumes? I bet the furry community would have at least supported it, right? Okay, probably not, but it was worth a try. Also, what line of thinking went into these choices? They chose to make fur, cat ears, and cat tails as realistic as possible, which, I mean, kudos for the ambition and the vision. But no, because the rendering of this film must have taken its toll, and I'm not just talking about on the equipment, but on people. I can only imagine the mental strain this must have taken on the editors, forced to watch every scene, rewatch the frames, and put them all together. I hope they provided mental health support on set, but you never know. Also, what's like the first thing that people do when they dress up as cats for like a Halloween party or drag? Prosthetics in a mouth to make it look like a cat snout, right? Or even just with makeup. And what are cats mostly known for, if not their paws and their claws, right? So why the did they choose to have the cats fully catified, except for the faces? They kept the actors' faces as they are. and then the hands were just hairy hands. Is that a condition they caught on set? Like, what is this? Not passing judgment. These are legitimate questions that came to mind that I don't care enough to Google. Like, if there's an answer out there, it will have to come to me because I'm more than happy to go to the grave with these questions unanswered. Also, I understand the limitations with having bipedal animals, that's us, humans, interpret quadrupedal animals, that's the cats, in a realistic way. Some would even say you can't or you shouldn't because it's creepy and it doesn't work. But that did not deter the heroic minds behind this production. The result is a mixture of people either walking like people or hopping around on all fours, which made me think of demon children skulking around haunting people. The proportions, I'd say, are also incredibly off. They built these sets around them so the actors looked like proportionally correctly sized cats, but they seemed to either get smaller as time went on, or maybe the sets were too big, or maybe I'm thinking about it too much, but that's just me trying to understand what I saw. Rationalize this film, wrestling with the internal turmoil cats caused me. And as much as I want to acknowledge how ambitious the CGI effect thing was, the end result is garbage. At first, certain scenes weren't rendered properly, so much so that they had to send a new version of the film properly rendered to cinemas after the film had already premiered and some people had already seen it. And if you watch closely, when the cats move fast, the proportions get skewed at times, and you can almost lift the veil into what I can only imagine was the worst filming process any actor had to go through. Hell, Ian McKellen, who had aired his grievances about having to act against only green screens during the production of Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, was in this storm. Like, haven't our elders suffered enough? And I extend that same sentiment to Dame Judi Dench, who looks positively miserable in every frame of this film. Like her eyes were secretly sending coded SOS messages she hoped the filming crew would notice, but they didn't. They really didn't. Of course, this is not the VFX team's fault. In fact, it's Tom Hopper's. Apparently, they spent 6 months rendering a 2-minute trailer and then 4 months rendering a 2-hour movie. And Tomcat, as I like to call him, wasn't very flexible either. Perhaps it was his inexperience with working with this amount of VFX. He chose to go an unusual route with a production process. He would demand the team fully render the scenes, which was incredibly time and cost consuming, before he reviewed the scenes or provided any sort of feedback. Whereas in normal productions, they only render a few effects, so it's not as time-consuming and doesn't cost as much money. He also told his crew that real-life references to cats should be used for every movement, which makes incredible sense considering, most of the film is actors dancing and singing like humans would. Apparently someone pointed out to him that would be impossible because cats don't dance. Speaking of dancing, some cats have sneakers, other cats have shoes to tap dance with, which for the purposes of a musical makes sense. But also, why? Dear God, why? Some wear fur coats on top of their fur bodies, and perhaps the most horrifying sequence of the entire film is watching Rebel Wilson's character unzip a fur bodysuit to reveal an apron on top of her fur body? Was the point giving people nightmares, or was that just an unintended byproduct of this? Because I cannot unsee it. Just as I can't unsee James Corden munching on food from the garbage or drinking champagne, which looked so badly done but also nightmarish, I don't think I can ever move on in life. What am I supposed to do? Also, Taylor Swift is in this, no doubt because of her notoriety. In fact, I think that Taylor Swift and Jason Derulo were brought in to captivate a larger audience. Question mark? So many question marks. And this is no diss to Miss Swift. Obviously, she's very successful, but not every singer can do musicals. A powerful vocalist she is not. And that's okay. Not every singer is a vocalist. Just look at Madonna, who built arguably one of the biggest pop star careers ever on a very average sounding voice. Speaking of, isn't she in a really bad musical? Am I setting myself up for watching another terrible movie? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, apparently the film's visuals were completed mere hours before the premiere, and we thought the team behind She-Hulk was overworked. I cannot imagine the stress the Cats VFX team was under. It must have been pretty crazy. I'll stop, I swear. Here's the kicker, though. This could have all been avoided. Okay, I have a theory. A theory that Tom Hopper convinced himself that this would be the next big thing, a revolutionary step in modern cinema, a filmmaking prowess that would change the course of cinema history as we know it. Because Andrew Lloyd Webber, who made the music for the original show, apparently wrote to Universal that they had a car crash in their hands and they needed to get a hold of it. A year before they made it. The guy tried to warn them and offer to help them, and they ignored him because Tom Hopper refused to work with anyone who had been involved with the original show. That said, it wouldn't have taken a genius to realize that this was gonna flop. I mean, it's not just the execution that was terrible. The original show itself is considered by many the most pointless musical of all time. There's entire subsections of the musical theater community that actually hate this musical. For good reason. It's dumb. It's stupid. Musical theater gays, calm down, okay? I am one of you. I'm a fan of musicals. I will go to battle for Rent, okay? But the original show is based on the 1939 poetry collection Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. And they made it into a musical because they thought the poems had musicality potential, because the story itself isn't really a story. Like, it's just cats singing about themselves until one is chosen to reincarnate. Okay, I guess I do have to talk about the plot here, and that pains me more than you could ever understand. As I said, there's this cat, Victoria. Bless her, she has the same facial expression the entire time. And she watches other cats do their musical numbers. That's it. Damn, that is it. That is literally the film. It's just Victoria going from one set piece to the next, watching cats sing and dance and be weird. We got Jenny Any Dots, played by Rebel Wilson, who, as I said before, trains mice and cockroaches and then eats them. Ew. Rum Tug Tugger, played by Jason Derulo, who all the other cats lust after. It wasn't enough that they made this, then they had to make it sexual. Like, what kind of deviant put this shit together? Bustopher Jones, played by James Corden, is a fat cat who wants to reincarnate so he can become skinny and get fat all over again. Gus the theater cat, real name Asparagus, but he goes by Gus because asparagus is a mouthful. See what I mean? Like, what are we doing? What am I doing? My name's Asparagus, but that's a mouthful, so just call me Gus. Gus the theater cat. Isn't Gus the theater cat a bigger mouthful than asparagus? Hello? Is anyone home? Is anyone there? God, if you're there, send me a sign right now. God ain't real. God can't help you with this film. You're gonna sit through it and you're gonna love it. Oh, by the way, spoilers. I'm gonna get into the ending soon, but does anyone care that this movie's being spoiled? Probably not. It's 6 years old. You know what? Get over it. You've had time. You've had time. Gus the theater cat is played by Ian McKellen, and, you know, like I said, he just looks sad. Not angry. No, just disappointed. And isn't that so much worse? Skimbleshanks is probably the most disturbing. He's the tap dancing cat. The tap dancing actually sounds good, but not good enough to justify any of this. Hell no. And Mr. Mistopheles is the only cat that I knew prior to watching this because my boyfriend keeps humming his song. Na, 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 Mr. Mistopheles, dun dun. And that's it. That's all I got. He's a magician, and he gets tasked by the other cats to get to the jelly cull leader because she got kidnapped by Macavity. They're on a boat in the middle of the Thames, the River Thames in London. Speaking of magic, Idris Elba plays Macavity, this mean cat with powers of teleportation who kidnaps the other cats in the competition so he can win the contest. Now, why would you want to die and be reborn when you can literally teleport yourself and others? Just go rob a bank. You know, teleport yourself into a really nice house. Like, what kind of better life will you have, right? Unless you gain the powers of teleporting and shitting money. Teleportation, hello? Is there any better power to have? You can literally teleport yourself into banks. You can teleport yourself to whatever holiday you want. You can literally spend a day in wherever you want, and you can crash into people's houses by just teleporting yourself into them. It's perfect. Macavity, what are you doing? But also his name sounds like a Scottish person telling a dentist what hurts. Macavity. Taylor Swift kind of struggles through most of the song, and I'm pretty sure she's doing a British accent. I mean, attempting at least. And was that needed? I mean, if you're gonna hire an American actress who can do a British accent, why not just have her do an American accent in the film, right? Like, y'all heard of immigration? Surprise, but we're not rounding up immigrants or visitors and sending them to camps in a different country just yet. That's US style. Her character wasn't really needed, but we could also say that about literally everything else on screen. So, yay for Swifties, although I can't imagine a Swiftie was impressed or happy that this happened. Old Deuteronomy, played by Dame Judi Dench, is the Jellicle leader who picks the winner of the Jellicle Ball. Again, she looks miserable. This woman does not want to be there. She's just there to collect a check. And then we have Jennifer Hudson. Sweet, sweet Jennifer. She plays Grizabella, the outcast of cats. The outcat, if you will. No, that was stupid. Who gives this emotionally charged rendition of Memory, the most well-known song of the musical. And she sounds good. So if you want to enjoy it, listen to it. Don't watch it. Someone must have told her that she was going to snatch another Oscar like she did with Effie. And if no one told her that, she must have believed it. Because she gives it her all. And oh, wow. What a waste, because it's horrifying to watch as her head moves and changes in proportions, all while she belts out this emotional, cathartic moment for such a troubled cat. Oh, sweet Jennifer, how they wronged you so deeply. And in the end, because I finished it, so you're gonna hear the end of it, Grizabella wins the contest and sails into the sunrise on a hot air balloon, and Victoria gets officially named one of the Jellicle cats. What a honor. I think my life now will be defined before watching Cats and after watching Cats. It is the cross I have to bear for choosing to voluntarily put myself through it, despite the many warnings that it would be really bad. And I know everyone is hyperbolic in the way they criticize this film. Many even say this is the worst movie that's ever been made or the worst movie they've ever seen. Now, do I agree with that? Yes. But not because it's the worst movie ever made, it's just the worst movie I've ever seen. So if you think there is worse out there, I invite you cordially to let me know in the comments down below. And I'll do my best to check them out. And if any of them actually surpass the shitness of Cats, then I will bring it to you guys. And I will prove to you that Cats isn't actually the worst movie ever made. It's just normally the worst movie people have ever watched. It just all made so much worse considering it cost $95 million, and you're telling me that not a single person managed to slap some sense into Tom. The only thing that could have saved this movie would have been a call to PETA to put these cats down, because we know PETA loves to put down animals. Not a joke, just a fact. And thank you for sitting through this with me. Truly appreciate it. Consider leaving a like down below, subscribing to my channel. I post videos every week, normally twice a week. It's usually Mondays and Fridays, but I don't want to set anything in stone because sometimes scheduling conflicts happen. But consider joining the family and joining us every week for a bit of fun, a bit of lighthearted fun, though not always. I also cover some pretty disturbing shit. And until next time, stay safe, stay sane, stay stupid, and stay stuttering. Bye, guys.